Oh, this is it. This is where the adventure starts. 6,000 kilometres, 2 weeks, and some of the most remote, isolated, desolate country here in Australia. What could possibly go wrong? Right, 4 bikes, 4 blokes, going to do blokey things. Chris, that guy there, he's on his relatively new BMW 310. He'll be with us for a day or so. Chris Grice, that guy, he's on his tractor of the desert. That bike's only a couple of years old, but done some pretty hard yards. Now the thing about him and that bike on this trip, he's running a tubeless tyre on the back, even though it's a tubed rim. Now that scares me a little. He's had to do that because of the distance of this trip. He normally runs a Dunlop 606, which is a great cheap tyre for our purposes, big block knobby, but a 606 wouldn't last the trip. You only get about 4,000 or 5,000 k's out of a 606. So he's had to fit a tubeless tyre. Now if we get a puncture, that's going to be a bastard to get on and off the rim. And then of course there's JP on his African twin. Right, we're just rolling through the hamlet, village, town, whatever you want to call it, of 2J. Perth was founded in 1829, and this place, along with some other small towns, was settled a few years later, just outside of the city. This place was settled in 1836. Very popular with bike riders and other tourists generally over the weekends. Yeah, very popular destination. We're less than an hour from Perth at the moment, and we'll be leaving the Blacktop, the sealed road, shortly, and then we won't be seeing a lot of it, that is Blacktop, until we reach Alice Springs. So for the next 6, maybe 7 days, we'll be primarily unsealed roads and tracks with patches of Blacktop here and there. Just arrived at Canalling. Chris on the BMW 310, he's going to have to top up just to give him peace of mind. Nothing worse than fuel stress. Most of us have been there at one stage or another, and it's not a good feeling. So just to give him peace of mind, we're going to stick a few litres in his tank, and then we'll keep going. Well, this ain't good. We've just turned on the road that takes us to Payne's Find. It's unsealed, and the sign says road's closed. So we'll make some calls and see what happens after that.
Coming out of Beak and turning into Paynes Find Road on our motor.
Well, we were lucky we had phone reception. Having said that, we've got a satellite phone with us. But anyway, we've made a phone call to the Shire and they said, no, the road is open and trafficable. So at least we've done the right thing and kept our end of the bargain. Well, this ain't good. I've just turned around. I mean, usually the process is stopping every 20 kilometres or so and just check to make sure the bloke behind you is still behind you. You can't often see them because of your dust trail. But I've just propped, turned around, and I can't... Oh yeah, there's a headlight right off in the distance. He may have pulled over to chuck a piss, I don't know. Anyway, all good. Right, we're just pulling into Paynes Find. Used to be a gold mining area around this district. Paynes Find is a unusual place. It's on the main road, Great Northern Highway, heading to the north of Western Australia to where all the serious mining is. So it cops quite a bit of business heading north, but it's only got small capacity fuel tanks. It's often been known to run out of fuel, and because they have so many drive-offs, they're an untrusting bunch. You've got to go and hand your licence in or some other form of ID. Please go in and see staff due to the increase in drive-offs. So yeah, you've got to drop something off before they'll allow you to draw any fuel.
Are you guys getting fuel?
Yep.
Yeah.
I trust you.
No worries.
Righto, we've all refuelled. We're not going to be going far now. It's getting quite late in the day, so we'll get back onto the gravel and start looking for a campsite within the first few kilometres, I think. I've just found a track that runs off the main road. We're only looking for an area big enough for 4 bikes. Don't need a lot of room. Sometimes this can be the trickiest bit. This will do, mate. This is a good area here. Nice and flat, soft, beautiful. Oh, a few ants. Big ants. Maybe here. So all they do. We're just sitting around the campfire and this thing tried to attack us. Everything here in Australia can kill you. And if it doesn't, it'll give you a nasty suck. He's an aggressive little bugger, isn't he? Got a red tail. Is it soft or flat? It's down to 7 psi. I wouldn't have left Perth on 7 psi, would it?
What do you want me to go to?
Oh, this ain't a good start. Chris has got a doughy front tyre. Only had 7 psi this morning when he checked it. So we've inflated it. We'll check it again before we leave. Might have to do a tyre repair before we get underway, I think. Alright, morning of day 2. Chris is leaving us today. He's heading back to Perth on his 310. He's not really set up for serious outback travel, and that's okay. I mean, any opportunity to get out of the city is good. So yeah, he'll be leaving us. We'll be down to 3. We don't have a destination for this evening. We think we're going to be just shy of Great Northern Highway. Once we get on the highway, the problem we have is finding bush camps because there's a lot of fence lines. But anyway, we'll figure it out as we go. Relatively mild night last night. It wasn't cold. Dinner for most of us was in the form of a can. Pretty straightforward. Pierce the lid, put it near the fire, not in the fire, near the fire. Turn it several times, rotate it, wait till it gets warm through and then consume. Throw the can in the fire afterwards, burn it off. That way when we pack it out, because we don't leave the rubbish here, we take it with us. If it's been burnt off, it's not going to attract ants and the like. Just crush it flat, stick it in your gear. And breakfast for me in this case was cereal. Once again, just consume and then throw the rubbish in the fire, burn it. No dishes to wash, no wasting water. Now all we have to do is get out of here. It could be a little bit tricky. It's tricky getting in, so it'll be tricky getting out. Bloody flies are bad. This is where Chris will turn left and the rest of us will turn right. Safe travels. See you, mate. I guess as Chris is worried about that front tyre. Well, it's okay. Alright. Right, we're just approaching a small community called Sandstone. This area here is very, very popular with amateur prospectors. A couple went missing here a few years ago now. They found one of them at the bottom of an old shaft. They never did find the other. I don't know I can't recall who's missing, whether it's the woman or the bloke, but yeah, they never did solve that mystery. But anyway, we're here long enough to refuel and I think probably get a bite to eat. One of the decisions I have to make whenever I go away, of course, is which bike am I going to take. I've got this thing, the 1200, and I've got a Suzuki DR650 at home. I do prefer this bike for obvious reason. I think it's a great outback touring bike. Having said that, the 650 comes in handy occasionally as well, and it's all based on what I call the misery factor. I mean, I'm prepared to cop a bit of hurt, and if I take this bike and I think there's going to be about 5% misery, then I'll lean towards this. Like I say, I can cop a bit of hurt, and I know that there's a couple of tricky bits on this trip, but I think the good conditions will far outweigh the bad For that reason I've leaned towards this bike for this trip. I mean, you can do it on a smaller bike. Chris is proof of that on his 650. But at the end of the day, once I get out of the saddle, I find that I'm still feeling pretty refreshed. Time for a cuppa and something to eat. I'm just slowing down. I'm about to tip over the 100,000 kilometre mark on this bike, which is a bit of a momentous occasion. I'm pretty proud of that. I mean, this bike is, well, I was going to say it's not been treated well. That's not true. It's been treated very well, but it's done some hard yards. I bought it as an adventure bike, and I've certainly got my money's worth. So 100,000 kilometres, bit of a landmark. Effectively only had two things wrong with it. One was the front shock absorber. This has got telelever suspension. The shock absorber failed under warranty. Boom, there it goes. That's worth a photograph. And the other thing was I just replaced the final drive, the tail shaft, after call it 100,000 kilometres. Which is not bad, because if it was a chain drive, I probably would have swapped out the sprockets and chain 5 times in that period. So it's probably about the same price as the final drive. So boom. 100,000 kilometres, well done bike. Over the years I've seen a lot of bikes like this, big 1200s and 1250s for sale. Blokes buy them and don't realise what sort of a handful they are off-road, so they sell them. They're always boasting never been off-road, never been laid over. Well, I can proudly say that this is always going off-road and has been on its side several times. As I said, it's an adventure bike, folks. Get out there. Alright, at Wiluna, refuelled, had a cup of coffee. We're about to, we'll ride for another hour and then start looking for a campsite, bush camp. And that means we would have covered just over 500 k's today. We've got to average about 500 k's a day to sort of keep some sort of schedule. We've got a couple of diversions coming up. We've got to go to Newman to pick up a spare tube for Chris. He's just got some concerns about that tube, that front tube. So we'll lose a bit of time there. And we've just made a couple of phone calls forward to some of these remote communities about fuel availability. There's a public holiday coming up soon, and these communities run on very, very limited hours anyway. That could be a problem in a few days' time. I guess we'll know more soon enough. Alright, end of day routine. Look for a campsite. Only need one big enough for 3 bikes. An area that's flat with a good supply of firewood. This will do. Nick Xenophon or something.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
going to be Alright, morning of day 3. We've got a couple of issues that we have to deal with. Chris still has a slow leak in that front tyre, we think. That sounds a bit vague. So yeah, we're going to have to try and pick up a spare tube in Newman. If we don't get it in Newman, the next opportunity is Alice Springs, and that's about 2,000 kilometres between bike shops, just to give you an idea on how remote parts of Australia is or are. The other issue is coming up to a weekend and public holiday, and some of the communities have very restricted hours, so fuel could be a problem. We could end up with about a 24 or 36 hour window where we're in no man's land due to a lack of fuel. But we've still got a couple of days to try and figure out the logistics. Right, we've hit the Blacktop Bar and we follow that to Newman for about 250 kilometres. So looking forward to that. Well, for the first 10 kilometres. After that it'll become boring. Alright, we're just entering the iron ore mining town of Newman. We're here to pick up a tube, a front tube for Chris. He does have one. He's got a problem with that front tyre. It's not sitting quite right with him, so he just wants the reassurance of having a second tube. So we'll pick that tube up from here, grab a bite to eat and start heading east from here.
When we wake, hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. All the good times just begun. We know what we have, let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life. Call us crazy, but things are finally right. Sleep, hear the crickets, see the moon, side by side and through, no limit to what we can do.
Okay, we've just pulled up another line, very small community. When we leave here we start heading east, and that's when shit gets real. It's got the potential to go very, very pear-shaped very, very quickly. So we need to make sure we bring our A game. What the fuck's happened there? Thick sand. Uh-oh, he's stuck, he's pinned.